All right, man, so let's talk about what you should eat for maximum muscle gain, fat loss, just overall health, clearing up your skin, clearing up your appearance, and just really maximizing your health, your hormones, everything. Growing up, for me, I ate pretty healthily, okay? But the problem is, as I got older, I started to get influenced by a lot of these people online who say things like, oh, you can eat whatever you want. It doesn't really matter what you eat as long as it fits into your macros and it fits into your calories. So when I started to hear that, I went down this path, which I regret doing now. Obviously, this is why I'm making this video. Of all these following these people who are saying it doesn't matter what you eat. You can eat pizza, you can eat, donuts, whatever, as long as it follows your macros and your calories, it's okay. And so I followed this advice, and what it led me was down a pretty dark path, a pretty dark road where I ended up 2 years later ending up being really overweight, right? Having no muscle mass, just like being in all these bad habits. And what I didn't realize at the time was you are what you eat. So if you're eating a lot of food that's like the American standard diet, right? You're going to basically become that. And what that diet does is it really creates this cheap dopamine, instant gratification mindset where you essentially become this person who is constantly looking for these highs. And you get these highs through eating a lot of this sugary food, right? This sugary, very carby type of food. And the problem with that is it leads you to overeating. So a lot of people, this is why so many people out there are so overweight, is because they eat a lot of this food. And the problem is not only does it affect their attitude and their decision making in a bad way because they're always chasing the cheap dopamine, but it's also because when you're eating that food, there's no nutrients in it. It's all just sugar. It's literally sugar and carbs. And so that's all going into your body, and your body's like digesting it. It's like, okay, where's the nutrients? There's no nutrients. Where is it? And so what happens is your body's like, okay, well, we're still hungry. We need the nutrients. We're still hungry. And you go and eat more of it and more and more and more. And you overeat because it's so packed full of calories and sugar. And all that gets shuttled right into your fat cells. And you become overweight just like I did. So when I got to this point, I started to realize, whoa, like this is what's going on. I'm getting to be having way too much fat for my own standards. I wasn't like lifting. I was doing all these things because of this cheap dopamine. And so I realized, all right, I got to go on this journey to figure out what foods are best. And also like my skin was not really like clear. I was getting acne again. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I went on this journey and I figured out basically, in order for you to have like the perfect diet for muscle building, fat loss, and overall health and stuff, there's really 4 key pillars. So number one, it needs to be a diet that maximizes your muscle gain. Number two, it needs to be a diet that minimizes your fat gain, right? You don't want to be gaining a lot of fat. You want to be gaining as much muscle as you can. Number three, it needs to be something that is good for your overall health. So like if you think about like your gut health, your microbiome, getting all the micronutrients that you need, and keeping like your hormones and stuff balanced so that you have like high testosterone and stuff like that. The other thing is it's got to be sustainable. So many people talk about like these diets of what you should eat in terms of muscle building and all this stuff, but they don't really explain to you that that's not sustainable. You're not going to be able to do that. So I've tried so many different diets, bro. I've done like the vegetarian diet, the vegan diet. I've tried the pescatarian diet. I've tried paleo, the keto. I've tried all the different diets basically, besides, I'm sure there's a few fringe ones I haven't tried, but I've tried most of them. And the problem is they're not sustainable and they don't meet these other criteria. So I'm putting up a list right now of the foods that you want to be eating, okay? The foods that you need to be eating. And these are going to be the foods that meet all those 4 criteria. So they maximize muscle, they minimize fat gain, right? It's sustainable. And on top of that, it helps you with like your overall health and gut microbiome and your hormones and stuff like that. Now, these foods, how do these foods really help us, and why are we choosing these foods out of all the others? So the first thing is if we want to maximize our muscle gain, we need to be getting in enough protein, right? That's one of the things that you should know by now, obviously by watching videos and stuff, that you need to be getting in enough protein. It's very hard to actually get in protein if you completely cut out all dairy, you completely cut out all meat. It's going to be really difficult for you to do that. Also for me, it's not sustainable because I've tried doing the whole vegetarian thing. It just doesn't work. So, when you're eating whole meats, like, beef, you're eating things like chicken, you're eating fish, bison, maybe elk or something like that. These are the kind of meats that you want to be eating. So when I say whole meats, I'm not talking about, you go to the deli and you get, turkey for a sandwich. Like that's not the kind of meats you want to be eating because they actually put a lot of chemicals in those meats and they put a lot of extra stuff that you don't want to be eating. That's actually harmful for your gut microbiome and your overall health and hormones. So when I say meat, I'm talking about whole meat. So like a steak, piece of chicken, beef. Obviously, if you want to have like a burger or something like that, it's cool. Like, because that's just a whole piece of meat that's been ground up. So a burger, fish, cod, salmon, those kind of things, super healthy for you, super good for you. And it really helps you get the protein. So that's what you want to do for maximizing muscle. But for fat loss, it's really important that we actually cut out things. So here's a list of foods that you don't want to eat if you actually want to lose fat. The reason is, like I said, it causes you to have this cheap dopamine, this craving, these addictions to go after these foods. And so you start overeating on them because you're literally addicted to it. And your caveman brain thinks, oh, hey, a nice sugary food. It's high in sugar, it's high in fats. 1,000 years ago, that would have been amazing because it would have meant, we're going to survive. But in these days, bro, you're overeating on these foods and it's causing you to gain weight. It's causing you to have all these problems in terms of your health, your skin, and everything like that. So you got to avoid these high sugary, high fat type of foods as much as you can. Not only because of that, but also because, like I was saying before, the nutrients, there's no nutrients in those foods. So when it goes into your gut microbiome, it goes into your stomach, your body starts digesting it, but it's like, bro, where's the nutrients? There's no nutrients. And so when there's no nutrients, you stay hungry because your body isn't full. It's not actually getting what it needs to run. And so it needs to eat more in terms of trying to build up for that lack of nutrients. So that's what you need to do when it comes to fat loss, is basically when you're eating, avoid those types of foods. Now, some people say, oh, do intermittent fasting where you don't eat in the morning and you maybe start eating at noon till like 6 or something. You can do that. It really depends. I don't really know how much of a difference it makes in terms of fat loss, but in and of itself. But if it helps you stay within the calorie range that you're in and that you need to be eating in, then go for it. But I wouldn't do it if it's not, if it doesn't fit your lifestyle. Because the fourth thing is, remember, it's got to be sustainable. So sustainability means you can do this long term. For me, when I was on the vegan diet, I couldn't even do that for a week because I was like, bro, I need protein like so badly. I can't stick with this. So you got to find something that's sustainable for you. And the reason why I picked these foods in that list is because it's very sustainable. There's nothing about that really isn't sustainable because it's not extreme on any end. You've got meats in there, you got meats, a little bit of dairy, right? You've got seeds, nuts, fruits, vegetables. All these kinds of things are perfect because they're whole foods. When you go into the store, okay, and you're looking at the ingredients list on the back of a package and it has 1,000 different ingredients in it, that's not something you should be putting in your body. So what you want is you want foods where you look at the ingredient list and it's like, oh, meat, like you look at the back of the label and it's literally like, oh, steak. Okay, what's in it? Steak. You know what I mean? Or like potatoes. Oh, potatoes. You don't want to be going and getting these things where it's got like a ton of ingredients in it when you're shopping. So those are the things that you want to be doing. And that's why you want that list of foods to eat and you want to avoid the other list of foods, because if you actually focus on the foods that I mentioned, that's going to allow you to do all the four things, right? The four key things: build muscle, minimize your fat gain, make sure that your actually overall health, gut microbiome, and your hormones are good, and it's actually sustainable long term. The other thing I want to mention too is you may see a lot of these videos and articles, people saying, oh, you need to stick with the diet and all this kind of stuff. The reality is, bro, you're going to mess up, okay? Let's be honest here. You're going to mess up. You're going to go down the street one day in the middle of summer. It's going to be super hot. You're going to see an ice cream stand right there and you'll be like, oh, I'm going to get some ice cream. It's like you're not going to be like a robot. But the idea is that every single day, your day-to-day eating is these food groups that I mentioned. And the way that you can do this is just pick from those food groups, okay? And then, just pick maybe 3 of them and create a meal with it. You don't need to be doing anything like crazy. Just pick from that list, pick a few things, create a meal with it, and just eat that. The way I like to do it, honestly, is create the meals beforehand, and then every single day I know what I'm eating ahead of time, just so that I don't even have to think about it. But everybody's a little different. Everybody likes to have a variety, maybe, so that might not work for you. But that is what you want to be eating. Those are the foods that you want to be eating because they're whole foods. They've got a ton of nutrients in them. They're going to minimize your fat gain because they're not full of sugar and simple carbohydrates, which just get shuttled right into your fat stores and your fat cells. And it's going to give you the high protein that you need. It's going to balance out your hormones because it's high in the fats, right? It's got high fats and high protein, which the fats are really important for your hormones and your hormone health. And it's got all the micronutrients you need for your gut microbiome, which is going to just, benefit like your overall health. And so if you can do that and you can avoid the other list that I have up here of foods that you should be avoiding. Now, again, remember, that doesn't mean you can't ever eat these things. It just means that on a day-to-day basis, you're not eating these things every single day. The majority of your diet isn't made up of these things. You're cutting them out. And so if you can do that, you're going to avoid, the brain fog that comes with it, because when your gut microbiome is weighed down by all the toxic chemicals from all those processed foods, it literally gives you brain fog, right? It literally gives you acne and makes your skin like all messed up. So don't do that. Don't eat those foods. And so many people will say, "Oh, but those are my favorite foods and I don't want to give up pizza. I don't want to give up pasta." But the reality is, the reason why it's your favorite food is because you've been brainwashed to think that that is your favorite food, but it's really not. Your body doesn't really want to eat that. It's just eating it because your brain is telling you, your caveman brain has literally been telling you, "Hey, this is what you should eat. This is what you should eat because it's high in fat, it's high in sugar, it's high in carbs, it's a quick energy source." The problem is your brain doesn't know any better. We live in the 21st century, bro. Like, you can go down the street and there's like 20 Burger Kings. we're not going to die, right? You're not going to die from a lack of food. So what it actually is you need to retrain your brain to actually eat these things. And the best way you can do this is really for 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, is to just focus on incorporating some of these foods in. So on a day-to-day basis, pull out some of the foods that you've been eating. Like, say it's, I don't know, pasta, pizza. Maybe you eat pizza every single day. Maybe it's, a pastry or a dessert every single day. Pull that out and swap it out with one of the foods from the list that I have up there, right? Swap it out with one of those foods and do that for, 2 to 3 weeks. And you'll start noticing, I'm not really like getting the same cravings for the sugar anymore, because your taste buds literally regenerate every 2 to 3 weeks. And so if you train yourself based on that way, where you're eating this healthier food, not only will you notice a difference like with your taste buds and kind of what you start craving, but you're also going to start noticing your overall health. You're going to start noticing you're more awake, your skin, starts clearing up. You're going to start noticing that you're losing fat. If you're in the gym lifting weights, you're going to start noticing you're gaining more muscle. So you can't lose by doing this. And it just took me years to kind of figure out this information, because so many people are telling you, do this, do that. You want to be keto, you want to be vegan, you want to be, and it's like, no, bro, you need to be sustainable. You need to be sustainable. You need to make sure that it fits, in terms of you losing fat and building muscle. And it's got to actually hit that micro biome and actually hit the micronutrients that you need. Okay. So that's the best advice that I can give you in terms of diet when it comes down to it. So make sure you apply that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.